Hello and welcome to Awaz News. I'm Kubra Ali and I'll be taking you through big news across Canada. Security guard shot, seriously injured outside of Drake's Toronto mansion. India's envoy to Canada scheduled to speak on bilateral ties after RCMP arrests. Police investigate deadly shooting in Toronto's Oakwood Village neighborhood. Unionized workers rejecting more deals as fight for the wage gains presses on. King Charles too busy to see son Prince Harry during UK trip. City investigating after dead fish found floating in Hyde Park Pond. 2 women taken to hospital after stabbing at home in Oshawa. These were the headlines, and let's jump right into the details. Experts say union workers are feeling increasingly emboldened to reject tentative agreements as they fight to join the ranks of those benefiting from the recent wave of wage gains. McGill University Associate Professor Barry Adlin says there is a clear uptick in workers rejecting deals that have been recommended by their bargaining committees. He says workers are galvanized by inflation, the pandemic, and decades-long trend of employers having the upper hand. Over the weekend, workers at a Nestle chocolate plant in Toronto went on strike after turning down a tentative deal with the chocolate maker. Eamon Clark, president of the Unifor, local representing them, says workers' expectations are much higher now because the cost of the living has risen so much. He says he's seeing more tentative deals being rejected or barely passing. Prince Harry will not be seeing his father King Charles during his current visit to Britain as the monarch will be busy, Harry's spokesperson said on Tuesday. Harry, 39, has returned to Britain to attend a number of events to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Invictus Games, the international sporting event that he founded for military personnel wounded in action. The youngest son of King Charles has only been back in Britain on a few occasions since he and his American wife, Meghan, stepped down from official royal roles in 2020 and moved to Los Angeles, where they live with their 2 young children. They have since become estranged from the rest of the royal family, and Harry is said to be barely on speaking terms with his brother. Harry's last publicized trip came in February when he made a flying visit to see his father for a quick reunion after Buckingham Palace revealed that 75-year-old king had been diagnosed with cancer. There had been press speculation that the pair would meet up again on his latest trip, but a spokesperson from the Duke of Sussex said this would not happen. In response to the many inquiries and continued speculation on whether or not the Duke will meet with his father while the UK this week, it unfortunately will not be possible due to His Majesty's full program, the spokesperson said. Charles returned to public duties last week for the first time since his diagnosis for an unspecified form of cancer. Buckingham Palace said the King's diary would be carefully managed to minimize any risks to his health. The palace has said it would not comment on matters relating to Harry. After leaving Britain, Harry will be joined by his wife Meghan for a visit to Nigeria. Durham police say 2 women were injured in a stabbing during a domestic incident in Oshawa over the weekend, but police said they were called to a home in the area of Adelaide Avenue East and Town Line Road North on May 5th after receiving information that a woman was stabbed by her husband during an altercation. The man's adult daughter tried to intervene and was also stabbed, police said. Despite significant injuries, the woman was able to flee from her husband and seek help at a nearby residence. She was subsequently transported to trauma center in Toronto in a stable condition. The other woman was transported to a local hospital in stable condition. A 54-year-old man was of no fixed address is now facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of assault with a weapon, aggravated assault, possession of a weapon for committing an offense, and assault causing bodily harm. He was held for a bail hearing. Police said they are not releasing his name in order to protect the identities of the victim. A security guard working at Drake's Bridal Path mansion in Toronto was seriously injured in a shooting outside the residence early Tuesday morning, police said. Police tape and patrol cars could be seen at the rap superstar's sprawling home near Park Lane Circle and Post Road. Emergency crews were called to the area at approximately 2:09 a.m. for reports of a shooting. The victim, an adult male, was seriously injured in the gunfire and rushed to the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries, police said. He was standing outside of the residence's front gates when the shooting occurred. Police could not say whether Drake was home at the time of the shooting. Inspector Paul Krawczyk told reporters at the scene that the suspect or suspects involved in the shooting fled the scene in a vehicle, the description of which has not been released by police. Investigators are currently reviewing video footage of the incident, he said. Police are in contact with Drake's team and Krawczyk said they are cooperating with the investigation. The shooting comes amid an escalating rap beef with Los Angeles rapper Kendrick Lamar. Drake and Lamar released a number of diss tracks aimed at each other over the weekend, which included unsubstantiated allegations and personal insults. Asked about a possible link between the shooting and the recent war of words, Krawczyk said it's too early to tell if there is a connection. It is so early in the investigation that we don't have a motive at this time, he said. Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow was asked about the shooting at an unrelated news conference Tuesday morning and said that any shooting in the city is not welcome. I hope the police will find the people that are violating the law and catch them, she said. Krawczyk said there will be an increased police presence in the area as an investigation gets underway, but no more than any other time a firearm is discharged in the city. India's envoy to Canada is scheduled to speak publicly today for the first time since the RCMP made arrests related to a homicide that has roiled tensions between the two countries. High Commissioner Sanjay Kumar Verma is to address the Montreal Council on Foreign Relations on the theme of current and future relations between India and Canada. His speech was first announced in April, months into a diplomatic spat over the death of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjar had long advocated for a Sikh country called Khalistan to be carved out of India, and he was shot dead last June outside his temple in Surrey, British Columbia. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused New Delhi last September of playing a role in the killing, and the RCMP arrested 3 Indian nationals last Friday in connection with the case. Over the weekend, Indian Foreign Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar reacted to the arrest by accusing Canada of welcoming in criminals from his country. Veena Najibullah, the Research Vice President for the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada, says that despite the tensions, India remains a strong trade partner, one with increasing strategic importance for many of Canada's peers. The strain dates back to Nijjar's death, which sparked a wave of protests. Posters circulated that threatened Indian diplomats in Canada by name. Ottawa paused trade negotiations with India last August, a month before Trudeau publicly linked New Delhi to the case. In response to Trudeau's accusation, India forced Canada to remove 2/3 of its diplomats from the country, threatening to strip them of diplomatic immunity. New Delhi also temporarily suspended visas for Canadian visitors. For months, Ottawa has demanded that New Delhi cooperate with the murder probe. Up until last week's arrests, Verma had repeatedly said Canada must provide evidence. India is currently undergoing a months-long national election, during which Najibullah said rhetoric from the government of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be increasingly at odds with Canada. In his comments last week, Jaishankar lamented that our biggest problem right now is in Canada, referring to Sikh separatism. India deems it unconstitutional to call for separation from India, but Canada says Sikh people in Canada are entitled to free speech if they are not inciting violence. Last month, Modi twice made statements in the Hindi about his country's ability to kill those abroad who challenged the country's territorial integrity in comments that were more broadly related to Pakistan. Despite the rift, there are no signs Canada's trade with India was declined, and provinces in particular have been seeking strong ties. Alberta Premier Daniel Smith welcomed Verma in March. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe met Jaishankar last February and spoke at the Raisina Dialogue, a major foreign policy conference in India. Last week, the province announced it had convinced New Delhi to reinstate the province's envoy, who Saskatchewan said was among the Canadian officials India forced to leave. Najibullah attended the same conference as Mo in February. She observed that India displayed tremendous confidence over its rising economic power, population, and regional clout. The country has ambitions to be a global power through a foreign policy based on strategic autonomy, she said, meaning that it is open to working with Europe, Russia, and China without being left to rely on any of them. She contrasted that to China, with which Canada maintains significant trade ties but is increasingly at odds over security, global trade rules, and regional defense. Najibullah argued Canada should consider reopening trade talks with India despite the ongoing homicide case. One man is dead and women suffered minor injuries after shooting in the city's Oakwood Village neighborhood early Tuesday morning. Police said the shooting occurred outside of an apartment building on Winona Drive near Oakwood Avenue and Vaughan Road shortly after 1 a.m. A man in his 30s suffered life-threatening injuries and was pronounced dead in hospital. A woman was also injured in the shooting and suffered minor injuries, police said. Speaking to reporters at the scene, Deputy Sergeant Jason Davis said the suspect or suspects arrived in a vehicle shortly before the shots rang out. It is unclear how many occupants were inside the vehicle at the time of the incident. He added that officers are canvassing the area for video surveillance footage to get a better description of the suspect vehicle. We are in the preliminary stages of this investigation, Davis said. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Kubra Ali. I'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same channel. Have a good night.